Happy Friday, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We've got a new, somewhat temporary set today. We're doing a lot of work, moving around a lot of things in the studio. And so for right now, this is how it's going to look. There might be some more changes coming. And we'll be talking a lot about why we're changing the studio around later in the show. Before that, we're going to be chatting a lot about the Pathfinder Playtest, just because, again, every week, more information, new stuff is coming, all of that thing. So before we get to all that, welcome. Hope you've had a great week. And as a little shout out, Game Master AK, hope you're having a good Thursday afternoon, watching your lunch or listening while you're eating your lunch. And I'd like to introduce, as you all know already, especially if you've been on our forums, Mark Seifter, designer?
Yes.
Right, game designer. I'm never quite sure what the exact titles are.
Designers make new games and new rules chassis, and developers kind of do a little bit of everything from making stories to sometimes making rules using those chassis to... We use the term developer for a lot of different jobs.
Right. And it's a good catch-all,
Yes.
because you can develop so many things in so many different ways. So,
and our developers are jacks of all trades who could generally do a lot of different tasks. They're sort of like the directors of a movie, but also in some ways the producer, sometimes the script writer. They do a lot of things.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to tell a joke about that, but it's a long, rambling joke, and I will save everybody that. We'll do it at some point, though, but not today. So, hey, thank you so much for the sub. That's awesome. I appreciate everybody that's subbing to our channel right now. We have so many subs. We actually have 2 more emotes on the way. And so we're excited to get those out. Those should be coming really soon. And then doing things like sub badges and all of those sorts of things.
Are you going to tease what emotes
I can tell you one of them will be and these are things that I specifically wanted to get in time for the play test that we're going to be doing, was one of the Paizo Goblin going, what? Like, the GM
the golem or the goblin?
The golem. The Paizo Golem.
So the golem being like, oh.
Yeah. So it's kind of like everyone's like the GM is leading them down the hall, and then something comes out, and then it's like, what? Like, how did that happen? And so so we're getting some really really fun ones specifically for the live the actual play stuff that we're going to be doing, and I'll talk about that.
Spoilers.
What? Just wait. Yeah. We're fine. I didn't say a thing. Yeah. Anyway, I'm looking forward to that. If you don't know what emotes are, just hit that little smiley face down by where you chat, and you'll see all these fun cartoony things that pop up. And right now we've got an LOL. We've got a love one with hearts.
There's a Skittermander.
There is a Skittermander and a goblin holding a D20. Mm-hmm. And then we've got the love, and then we've got hype, like he's got his little thumbs up. There they are. Brendan's got him for you. Nitrace, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah,
and Krob, both folks that I met at Gen Con, by the way, which I was super jazzed about. So, subs get access to those emotes and everything. So
maybe I met them at Gen Con too.
I'm not
sure.
See, here's the thing. I met a lot of people, but not nearly as many people as you guys meet, because
But they didn't all tell me what their handle was on Paizo Fridays, whereas you're the Paizo Friday host, so they all said, you know me, you know me best as...
Well, yeah, and that is pretty fun. I like that. I think it's a good time. So, Mark, what are we going to be talking about today? Can we give a little preview of what they're going to be seeing us yammer on about?
Absolutely. So I think that one of the main topics, other than trying to give you guys a reasonable amount of time to answer questions, and the other thing that you already said about streaming stuff, is going to be the playtest and some of the changes that we're making during the playtest, and sort of the way that you can engage with that, where you can find them, how our process is with that. That's going to be one of the main topics for today, because this is our longer playtest period for part 1, so we have this extra week. Normally we'll only have 1 week that isn't the end of that part of the playtest, and then 1 week it is where we do the aftermath report.
And did we do that extra time because like Gen Con and all that kind of stuff? Was that
and plus you have to learn how to like play the game. And it sometimes could take a long time. Like
Right.
one person on one of their surveys must have included learning to read the book as time spent building their character, because they said that they took like 700 and some minutes to build their character. Like it takes a while to read the entire book, learn all of the rules for a new system, and figure out what you're doing.
Right, right. And that is true. That's very true.
We can't just expect you to be like, and now you will have 2 weeks to do this. And you better play it, and you better be done.
That's true. That's very true. You get the time to read it, get the time to get your team together, get everybody going, and all that kind of thing. So, yeah, the extra time is perfect for that. And then also, we kind of needed the extra time from Gen Con. You know?
Oh yeah. No, like a playtest is always time consuming. It can be stressful, and it takes a lot of energy. Coming off of Gen Con, you need a little bit of a recharge. It's why for a while we were like not really on the forums as much for a few days after Gen Con.
Yeah.
But there's really nothing like having tens of thousands of people poring over your rules to find every last issue. And honestly, you guys have been doing an amazing job of finding stuff for us, and we're like almost every day, even after I come home from work, because I keep checking the playtest, I can't stop. I'll like email myself like 3 things that I'm gonna need to check in the morning, and that you guys have found. So
it's funny. I'm kind of removed from this whole thing. All I get to do is sit back, see what we've learned, and then report that and get that out there. So I'm getting it after it's already been compiled, I suppose.
Sure.
But then in the morning I carpool with Jason, with Bowman.
Oh boy.
And so we spend a lot of time talking. He's like, he's telling me these interesting little factoids that are coming out from the survey, that things they're learning. And I think that we'll get to some of the other shows that we're going to be doing. But there's some really interesting little things that pop out from those surveys that I think is really fun to talk about. So
that'll be next week. It'll be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So let's dive into this thing. Let's get this thing moving along. So first off, what are some bigger, since we've started the playtest period?
Sure.
What are some of the because Jason talked about some of the changes that we were thinking about making and doing some errata and all that sort of thing.
So actually, let me go into that specifically.
Yeah.
So not everyone may have been here last week, and even if you were, the changes Jason talked about came up on Monday, and we have a file. It's like the Pathfinder Playtest rulebook updates.
Okay.
You can download them like kind of at the bottom in a little small print of the Pathfinder Playtest page. There's a bunch of things, and one of them is the updates.
Okay, so if you want to get these updates, you have to download them in the similar way that you download the packet and the book and all of those things. Okay.
But here's the cool thing about it. We're planning on updating it, like we hope, maybe once a week.
Okay.
With new updates.
All right.
But as soon as you've downloaded it once, as long as you don't turn off the email notifications on your Paizo account, it's just like any other product, which usually we can have it just ping you to let you know.
Oh, nice.
There's been an update. We updated this like we normally do when there's an update for a product. So it's not an update for your Pathfinder Playtest rulebook product. It's an update for your product that was the updates.
I gotcha.
It's an update for the update product. It's like kind of a nice bit of text that will make it so that you don't have to keep remembering, hey, they might have updated it again. It'll keep reminding you that we did so.
Yeah. Okay. So essentially, it becomes almost a document that reminds you that hey, there's something new coming. That's very handy.
And just in case nobody has looked at that, or anybody has not looked at it, I suppose, I'm going to remind people of the updates that were listed as critical updates that were on this Monday, is just very quickly. So first of all, you can now sneak around and sneak attack someone from stealth, which previously did not necessarily work.
Look, everybody that's watched this show at least a couple times.
I started with that one even though it wasn't alphabetically first and because
Team
of
Rogue,
you.
right here all the way. So
I skipped to it.
I love this.
It's 158, but I skipped to it.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate
And the Goblin's very sneaky feat, which previously sort of allowed you to do that, now has an additional upgrade that you can kind of take multiple sneaks down a hallway, even if you're exposed, as long as you end your turn in a place where you have cover.
I like this. I like this a lot.
So they can skitter around a little bit.
Yes.
So additionally, we have made it clear that all classes are trained in unarmored defense. You don't suddenly lose 2 additional AC in addition to everything else when you take off your armor. That's pretty good. The Alchemist and the Druid were both supposed to have 3 trained skills. The Alchemist because they were supposed to have 3, not 2. The Druid because they were supposed to have 4, but one of them is automatically given later in the class.
Okay.
So we changed them both to 3 trained skills. The Alchemist Quick Alchemy, and this is a fun one because our update document said the wrong thing. So we wanted to make it clear that you get 8 total formulas from the Alchemist.
Right.
4 from your Quick Alchemy and 4 from the regular formula book. Because before it was unclear, do you get 4 or do you get 8? Unfortunately, the updates was like, well, here, we'll make it clear, you got 4. But that's the opposite of what we wanted to do. So surely that will be re-updated in the next update.
Yeah.
Unless it continues to be the saga of the Alchemist formula book. We'll see.
Maybe we'll just leave it in for grins and giggles. I mean, you never know.
Sure.
So we won't, I promise.
The next one is the Bards. The Bards, the spell repertoire, the spells that they can cast spontaneously, they should have had one more in the running text. The chart is correct. And so we added one more first level spell to start off with in the running text. It's one first level spell. It's not a big deal, but it's useful if you thought you only got 1. Now you get 2.
Depends on when you need that spell.
Muse. That's right. The Ranger, we made it clear they use strength or dexterity for their key ability score. The Sorcerer, we made it clear that this is actually the same problem the Druid had, but in much larger amount, because the Sorcerer had 4 things that came deeper into their class.
Okay.
So there was a way to read it where you got the 5 that you were supposed to start with trained skills plus an additional 4 for a total of 9.
Right.
And we clarified, no, those extra 4, they used to be where you got your trained skills, but now you don't.
Okay.
And then, let's see, in the sling, we made it clear that you do not need both hands on the sling at the time of shooting the sling.
So it's not a 2-handed sling.
It's not a 2-handed sling.
Okay.
And then another one is sort of an FAQ, but we put it in anyway because of the fact that we just actually put it in the book because a lot of people were not remembering this, which is, hey, yeah, when you do attack rolls with spells, remember, they're attack rolls with spells. They use your strength or dexterity modifier as normal. They do not. They're not a spell roll.
Did it not do that before?
It always did it. That's why I said it's more of an FAQ than an errata.
Oh, right. Okay.
It always
I gotcha.
worked.
Okay. All right.
But so many people in-house and out, because there is a thing called a spell roll. You use it for a fair number of things. Like you use it for black tentacles, or you use it for like when you're casting a spell that needs to, and you need to roll to do, like, pick a lock or go against a skill DC or something like that. But you don't use it for attack rolls because it's not an attack roll.
Right.
And a lot of people like spell roll. Well, on my character sheet it's really big, so I probably use it for attack rolls. This change just makes that a little clearer. So there's also a bunch of other updates that were not listed as critical, but those were the critical updates from last week, and we're going to have some new ones next week. And the next part that we're going to talk about is we might have a little bit of a preview for even later than that, because next Monday is soon, so they'll get those soon.
Incredibly soon.
But why don't we give them a little bit of a sneak peek,
a little teaser
of 2 Mondays from now.
I love teaser content on our Twitch stream. I never seem to get it, and when I do, I'm so excited. So
we're gonna tease 10 days from now, 2 Mondays from now.
Wait, you're going 2 weeks out.
Yeah, we're gonna go 2 weeks out. We're gonna give a little tease. And that's gonna be right about in time for the second part of the playtest to start.
Perfect. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So phone the neighbors, wake the kids, because we've got some previews coming. Let's do this.
All right. So my preview is we are going to put out a death and dying update.
Okay. So now, yes, and there has been some consternation. There has been some talking and all of those. And so this is in reaction to what we're seeing as far as feedback is going, or is?
Oh, absolutely. But it's in reaction to. So, and we've said this before on some panels, maybe even on some of these shows, but there was a time when we literally, in the working document of the playtest book, had like 3 to 4 death and dying systems that were just in there. When we had to pick one for the printer, we did. But we didn't stop actually debating what we wanted, even after it had already gone to print before the playtest.
It was still a controversial thing among the team.
So even before we even hit Gen Con, we're like, well, we're definitely changing Death and Dying.
Okay.
And after you guys play with it, it sounds like you guys agree that we should definitely change Death and Dying.
Okay.
And so
Can we go into details, or is that
we
still?
do not actually, because it's Death and Dying, know for sure exactly how we're going to change Death and Dying yet. But I can talk to you a little bit about some of the ways that the current implementation is falling short.
Oh, I would love to hear this. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's.
So, we have a Death and Dying system now. There's some good things it does, but there's also some problems. One of the good things it does is that the way it currently works, in very brief, is that when you get knocked down, you're dying either 1 or 2, 2 if it was from a critical hit, and you make these dying saves until somebody heals you that make you, if you fail, 1 worse, if you critically fail 2 worse, if you get to what will be dying for, you die.
Okay. Yes.
So that means if you're critted and you critically fail, you die, but probably you won't die because you get to make a lot of checks. And if someone heals you, you keep making these saves, but they can't kill you.
Right.
And then eventually you wake up.
Right.
So
and somebody in the chat is saying that Sione at their table hit dying 2 quite a bit, and I've seen that myself playing. So
Sione, especially if she runs up to the front, is very capable of hitting dying 2. Mage armor can help her a little bit, but that's a big ask at first level. You don't have a huge number of spells known as a sorcerer at first level. And I mean, I'm very paranoid, so my casters like to run around with mage armor and shield because
all the time.
Yeah. Right.
And hang in the back.
Yes,
let's just chill in the back.
That's
where the cool
true.
kids are.
But so there were some advantages. One of the advantages of the I'll call it current in the book Death and Dying system.
Right.
Is
this is terrible placing on my part. I'm sorry.
One of the advantages of it is that it is at least better than negative hit points.
Right.
Not a high bar, but negative hit points have some issues where you have to do lots of negative math. And now I have a goblin. And, he's dying. So negative hit points, you have to do a lot of negative math with the threshold of negative your Constitution score. That you eventually hit a level where you're all but guaranteed to just die and bypass the Death and Dying system. Like I put in a little fun math teaser on the forums at one point when people were talking about the negative hit points, where I had a character in Pathfinder First Edition who was I can't remember what level they were, but they had some number of triple-digit hit points. They were down to a certain amount. I can't remember what it was right now. I said, suppose that they started from their hit points and they were going to take always take 10d6 damage, 10d6 damage, 10d6, 12d6, 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 or 14d6, 14d6, 14d6. And you have triple-digit hit points. That's 10d6 is only 35 on average. It's not too bad.
Right.
I think they started with 150. And I was like, what is your likelihood to be knocked out without being killed? It turned out that actually the most deadly of them was the 12d6s and not the 14d6s.
Really?
Yeah, because of a combination of edge conditions that the 12d6s were likely to, with the numbers that were set up, knock you kind of low and then just flat out take you from 8 hit points to negative 40. Whereas the 14d6 had a slightly better chance to take you to some negative number where you were alive. The point is, the math does really weird stuff.
Come on.
The chances, even for the safest one, was still a 70% chance that anything that knocked you out killed you instantly.
Okay.
And there were other problems. So we were able to avoid that.
Okay.
So that's one positive. Another positive is that many systems that involve 0 being the lowest you can go to, and then someone can hit you with a strong heal, and we certainly have high healing values for our healing spells in Pathfinder Playtest, is that there's what's sometimes called yo-yoing or whack-a-mole. Variously, I've seen it online, and some people have linked videos in our playtest of links from things about other games where that happened, which is sort of like, I was healed to full by the cleric, and now I'm back. And then the monster drops me down, and then I'm healed to full, and then I'm back. And you have to just do the work every round.
Right.
And you almost can't kill something. Like the PCs, if they had to deal with this on an NPC, almost can't kill a monster that's several levels lower if they all have healing, and they just whack back up and whack back down. So we did avoid that. But in so doing, and this is where I want to talk about the pitfalls, we fell into some major pitfalls.
Okay.
So some of them were just comprehensibility. The way that the current system works, you keep your dying condition even after you have positive hit points and you're awake. That's just sort of like you're in bad shape and you might be more likely to die flat out if you continue fighting. It drains away slowly once you come back up to full.
Right.
But it's very confusing because people want to, they like conceptually, it's like I have the dying condition. Wait, should that mean I'm like on the ground? How am I up and doing things with the dying condition?
Right. Yeah. Okay. So it's the terminology might be.
So that was a problem.
Okay.
For one thing. For a second thing is that while people can kind of get behind, I think overall the idea that there's a random chance that you might die some more when you're dying. Once you're healed, whether or not you're worrying about whack-a-mole, once you're healed and you want to get back in, having it be a random chance, even if it's some other barrier to entry, but that is at least predictable, having it be a random chance is actually more frustrating than tense. It's more tense when you're dying. Oh, wow, will I die? And it's random and you might not die. But if you're coming back in, even if your chance is 80%, you could fail that like multiple times in a row and just be really annoyed.
Yeah.
So we're definitely looking towards something that is more deterministic and you know what you're getting in for when you come back up. Like, we have some ideas in that front. We have not quite solidified on it yet, but I would say that is, those two things are pretty much the major weaknesses of the current system. Like, you can just be down there on the floor rolling bad, even against an easy DC. There's a third side one, which is that it's hard to remember what the DC is supposed to be for the dying save sometimes, but there are ways around that, and there are ways we can change that. I think that's going to be my teaser about the Death and Dying update.
Okay, all right. And so these Death and Dying updates we can expect to come in 2 weeks, you said?
Yes,
okay.
And we're probably going to update again after that. We'll try a bunch of different Death and Dyings if you guys will put up with us continually changing it like we've done to all of our internal playtesters over and over again.
Yeah.
I'm sure, Dan, that your rogues and actually your wizard in Logan's has played with multiple different Death and Dying systems over the time.
Yeah, that is true. I died a lot. Like a whole lot.
Actually died or went to zero and just got into big trouble?
Well, I think that we actually died because we had to make a lot of new characters.
Oh boy.
But it's possible that we went to zero, but then Logan was like, "No, you guys are dead. Let's do another thing now," and trying to playtest different parts of it.
Before you joined in to give them the wizard, Logan had me play twice, and one of the two times he made us fight an extreme encounter with a solo enemy.
Yeah, we did that a lot.
It was a giant bat, and it was really, really dangerous.
And then I think they were super excited that someone was coming in.
I'm just surprised we even lived through an extreme encounter against a solo bat. It had to run away.
I think that the joke was on them ultimately because it was me trying to play a wizard. And that was just as bad. Like, that was terrible. So
yeah, there you go.
So then let's talk about... because there are some things that I'm curious about also, and so I put some notes together.
Sure.
Talking about like signature skills and all of that sort of thing.
That's a good one.
And I say that because I get my own feedback in terms of like Twitter and all of those types of things. So I notice things that can come up once in a while, and so the skills thing, the signature skills thing has come
and you
up.
had it from last week. Jason was asked about it. He said we're taking a look at it. So
right.
We have definitely taken a hard look at signature skills, the ways you can get them, what they're adding, what they're preventing. And ultimately, we do think that it's really important in Pathfinder overall and in the Pathfinder playtest that you be able to make the character that is sort of your vision of your character. And the way they're currently implemented is kind of blocking that.
Okay,
so
all right.
We are definitely looking at significantly loosening the restrictions of signature skills.
Really? Now, when you say significantly, there are expectations you start to put together now when you say words like that.
Well, to be fair, there are only ever 3 skills that it really matters for your character, whether they're signature skills or not. Even as small a change as saying you get one of your choice means that, assuming you wanted at least one signature skill from your class, it would only be until level like 19 or so before it mattered that signature skills even existed at all. However, I am saying significantly so, but we're not all the way there yet because there are other rules that they're like feats that add signature skills. Especially the alchemist has a few. Some of the archetypes have them, and so we won't be able to have them for this coming week for sure,
okay.
and probably not for the week after that. So, but you're looking a little bit into the future.
Okay.
We definitely want to have them in one of these updates, our new system, or whatever we're doing with signature skills.
Right.
Because significantly can mean a lot of things.
It can mean a lot.
But we definitely have to, and it's fairly simple to go through and make some of the changes of loosening signature skills around, redecide how many trained skills classes get, say, based not on the signature skill number, but more on how many skills should they have. But rebalancing those feats and figure out what they should give, like what should they grant? Should they give you an extra trained skill instead of an extra signature skill? Like give that skill trained, and if you already have that one trained, just pick a flex pick for one to be trained? Maybe, but we haven't tested out. Does that mean like that the alchemist can wind up using their class feats weirdly and coming out with like 50 trained skills?
Yeah.
We have to check what the ramifications of any possible, I mean, can we add a signature skill from some of the things that do a lot of other stuff? Like the fighter multi-class archetype gives you athletics as a signature skill, but it also gives you a bunch of weapon and armor proficiencies. So maybe that one just didn't need to give you signature skills if there's already lots of significant restriction loosed of signature skills, and saying that you could almost get the ones you wanted anyway without going into it. Maybe it doesn't need to do that. So we need to look into how to change things that already are play with the signature skill system. So that's going to take a little longer. Whereas with Death and Dying, there are a whole lot of things that make you die. Or as long as we have a condition that's still named dying that works vaguely like it does right now, there aren't an awful lot of like spells or abilities that have to change. Like maybe die hard depending on how you die. Death Knell might work a little differently in its target if 0 hit points means something different than it does now, but it's only a few things, and it's relatively easy once we pick what we're doing with Death and Dying to make those changes. But that was a great example to ask, because it's one that we had a pretty serious discussion about, and we want to significantly lift the restrictions. Significantly.
Urgent Sandwich, how are you? Yes, I'm always winning that battle. I never lose. The battle of the shorts is going on, and you can't even see my shorts right now.
You can't see them. That's how you won the battle completely.
How much I win.
You just have this table.
I suspect that somebody put this table in front of me so they don't have to see my shorts anymore, is my guess.
That could be why.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm just going to let it lay there for a bit and not even worry about it, and just not let it affect me. I'm okay.
That'll be
So really quickly, though, kind of talking about the Death and Dying, somebody in the chat did have a good question. What design-wise, what sort of constraints are you under when you do the Death and Dying rules? Like, what sorts of things would kind of hinder you, and what do you have to really pay attention to?
Kind of constraints?
Yeah,
you mean
design,
how does the
design
system
constraints
force us in Death and Dying? I think that we really are under more philosophical design constraints, because there's a lot of different opinions throughout the playtesters, and I don't just mean, I mean, yes, the playtesters on the boards, on Reddit, on other sites, but also playtesters in-house, and the designers about what the most important thing is from the Death and Dying system. And we each have something different. I know what they are for the other designers. I don't want to call them out on it. I'll say what mine is, which is one of my number one things for Death and Dying, and it's sort of a double-edged thing, is that it not be ridiculously lethal like I described there at high levels, or at any particular level where you're just more likely to die than actually participate in the Death and Dying system. And on the other side of that lethality, there must be some way in the Death and Dying system, and honestly this system doesn't do it all the way for me, but there should be some way that if your players are like, well, those enemies do have 4 clerics, but I want to take them alive, there should be some way to get someone to the point where they are not at risk of immediately coming back in, which in this system you might be out for 4 rounds and rolling badly, but you also might roll a natural 20 and be back the next round. So that you can be like, no, you know what, we're not murderers, we don't go and like slit the throats of everyone, but I'm still relatively sure that this enemy is not coming back into the fight. And I may have had to spend some extra effort to do that, I don't mind. But basically, ways to make it so that not going to the instant, like, your character or the NPC for the story is dead situation, but still to have a threat of that on the horizon. That's sort of my big thing. I can give or take a lot on anything else as long as that is met. And each designer has something else. The rules do constrain us somewhat, but not really. The rules are pretty flexible, at least in terms of some of the death and dying systems we tested. And I don't know if Logan actually put you through some of the weirder ones, but there were some really weird ones, and they still worked fine in the. I mean, they worked fine as far as the rules were concerned. They didn't necessarily work fine as far as being good death and dying rules every time.
Yeah.
If you
that's
see what
fair.
I mean. It wasn't like, oh, the rules prevented this weird death and dying thing, but it just didn't work out.
I'm gonna put this more front and
There
center.
we go. Now I can do this when I want to point at it.
Yeah, there you go. Just in case you've not seen, we've got a new book coming out.
All right.
And there it is. So now talking about all of this stuff, the play test that we're doing, encouraging people to get in there, download the products for free if you have not gotten them yet.
Everything's free.
PathfinderPlaytest.com. You can get the entire Pathfinder Playtest
the
set
adventure,
for everything.
the playtestiary.
Yeah, the playtestiary.
Yeah, the playtestiary.
That's a portmanteau of playtest bestiary.
Yes,
I like it.
It's the playtestiary.
I like a good portmanteau. So
don't tell Eric.
Don't say anything to Eric, okay? This is our little secret. Everybody just keep it quiet.
Even War Priest is a little much for him, I think.
That's fair. That's fair. So one of the things that we've got coming up, and I'm really excited about this because it involves a lot of people from Paizo, not just the developers, not just the designers, it's really an open call to a lot of different folks that might be able to come in, is we're going to start doing actual play next week, Thursday, to be more specific, which is kind of why we have the desk. I've been moving stuff around all day. I've got a lot more equipment that I've had to purchase just to get things ready so we can do this because it took a while. And it's time to start doing this. We want to start playing. So Seifter, can you give us a preview of what people will see Thursday from 2 p.m. Pacific to 5 p.m. Pacific right here on this very channel?
I mean, I guess they'll see people playing Doomsday Dawn Part 1.
There it is.
The Lost Star.
So as a little bit of a little bit of a warning, if you plan to play through Section 1,
which you'll have like 1 day to do or something like that.
You have
after
1
that.
day, yeah.
I mean, you can really do it at any time, but to follow our normal schedule.
Yeah, and that's why we're kind of like waiting as long as we can, and that's why it's kind of falling right there, is because we want to make sure we've had a lot of people that want to have a chance to play. They have a chance. But if you haven't, we're going to actually play it right here. There will be, and this is what I'm excited about, because there's different sections in the book.
Yep.
And when it comes to who's GMing those different sections, how do we determine who's going to run that section?
It depends on the section, but a lot of the time it's going to be the author of that section.
See? So they're going to know it. Like, it's going to be great. And then who's going to be playing?
Whoever signed up, that was, whether they are, as you said, a developer, a designer, or work in the warehouse or customer service, anybody at Paizo could sign up. And Jason is putting together those teams. We'll see who he gets to possibly kill or not kill in his
run through the game. And you know, and it's going to be great. I'm excited.
It's a Jason dungeon, so you know it's going to just have more than its share of the higher difficulty encounters, like Bone Keep or
it's going to happen.
Rebel's Ransom or any of the anything I've played that's written by Jason.
Right.
Somebody has either died or nearly died every time.
I played my Monday night game was run by Jason for 3 years.
Yeah, you got a shadow curse and almost assasassinated the leader of Nirmathas.
That is true. Which, you know, at the end of the day, I ended up with Dark Vision, where I was very happy. But I got my rogue assassin had quite the. He almost died a lot. Let's just say that. So, so again, as a reminder, every Thursday, we are going to be streaming an actual play game right here in the studio from 2 p.m. Pacific to 5 p.m. Pacific. Then after that, I will be taking those and editing them and then putting them up on YouTube, probably over the weekend or maybe on Monday. I'm not sure how that timing is going to work out. Because we want to make sure that everybody has a chance to watch it, everybody gets to see it. And what you're going to see is the person that had a hand in creating that section is going to be GMing Paizo employees through that section
for the most part.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure you guys know, while we did give you plenty of time this time on and that Thursday will be near the end of the period. Turns out there's Thanksgiving and other constraints, so a lot of the other sections are going to have their first session be fairly early in the period.
Right.
So you may want, if you're playing through and you're not getting through the whole thing that quickly, you may want to wait and catch up for the first half. They'll be in halves other than the first part.
Yes.
Catch up the first half right before the day of watching the second half and watch them together on the second Thursday, depending on your group's speed.
Right.
Because we will be, next week is going to be part 1, but the week after that, which will be the Thursday, so a few days into the part 2 time period will be the first half of part 2.
Right, and generally for the most part we're planning on each section taking 2 weeks. So it'll be broken up a little bit. And then on Fridays after that, we're talking about what happened with each section before. We'll be doing those, I think, every 2 weeks.
It's an after action report, so it'll only happen basically after the final session. So it'll be next week, because that's the only one for Lost Star, then every 2 weeks after that point. And it's basically going to have 3 sort of sections. The first is what happened, talk about the adventure, talk about the data. Second is, hey, so what does that mean? What have we learned? What can we say? What changes are we going to make? What are we going to be interested in moving forward? And then part 3 is questions and feedback. So kind of like these. In fact, it'll be replacing the regularly scheduled one we're not replacing. It will be the regularly scheduled Paizo Friday. It will be those after action reports on weeks that it finishes off. So if you are playing and you don't finish them at super rapid speed, you can always potentially get the Thursday all queued up. Don't watch it yet. Wait for on YouTube potentially for the first one if you're not done yet. Watch that Friday, because it won't be spoilers for your adventure yet. It'll be some kind of cool intermediate thing like this one.
Just a fun chat.
Come in the next week, watch the first half on YouTube, say. Go watch the second half on Thursday when it comes in right by the end. And then Friday, come with us for the after action report and we chat about it all together.
Yeah.
So,
and what are we going to call that?
What are we going to call
Those shows are going to be called Doomsday Dawn Deconstructed.
That's
so when we get in there and rip open the soft underbelly of what just happened, and we jump in and kind of go through the nuts and bolts of the gameplay and how that section worked, we'll be calling those Doomsday Dawn Deconstructed, because first of all, alliteration is the best. And then second of all, triple D. And then and second of all, because we wanted to make sure that we want to take that time to not just move on to the next one. We want to take the time to kind of put a bow on it and make sure that folks have a chance to understand what they just saw.
That's why the second and the third part are in there too, not just the first to talk about it, but the second too. What does this mean? Hey, what's going on? And the third, what do you guys want to say about it? Do you want to be like, Jason, why did you put in that one encounter?
And you're going
you can literally have him there, because you'll always have the person who ran it the day before or is gonna come in, and you can ask him, and he'll explain, like, well, I think the PC should have been able to handle that, or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. But then
my group did
it. So what's happening now is that every Friday is just very Pathfinder heavy. When we're not talking about the playtest, which is just about every week, because there's always it's actually a very dynamic process for us right now. We're getting tons of feedback. There's a lot of people giving us their experiences from playing and all of those sorts of things.
It's a fire hose.
We're really
drinking from a fire hose.
It really is. It's very, very vibrant right now. And what we're noticing is that there's just no time for Starfinder, which I personally, I'm in a weekly Starfinder game. I love Starfinder. So to kind of combat that and to make sure that we are giving due diligence to an amazing, game. Every Wednesday we will be doing a Starfinder show. So it'll be Starfinder Wednesday and Pathfinder Friday, and then
Playtest Thursday.
and then Playtest Thursday. And so it's going to be a pretty busy week. Starting soon. And then we've got some other things that I'm still working on. You know what? King of Rock, it was going to be Tuesday. And I think I even said Tuesday. And then I sat down with the amazing Amanda Heyman-Coons, and she said that they do a meeting, a Starfinder meeting on Tuesdays, and it may not be the best day. So it's now going to be Starfinder Wednesday.
Right, whereas there's a long Pathfinder meeting on Wednesday that the Starfinder people don't have to be at. So,
right?
Yeah,
I knew that. That's exactly how I worked it out.
You figured it out, Dan. You're just a mastermind.
So we've got a lot of stuff. You're going to see me twice as much. For the live play stuff, I'm going to be at the desk. I'm not going to be out here at all. I'm going to be at the mission control back over there.
You can crack snarky comments in the chat.
And I will. And I'll have the Stream Deck and everything back there. And I'm just going to let the folks play and stay out of it. But I'm going to be on for another show. So Wednesdays and Fridays, we'll have Starfinder Wednesday and Pathfinder Friday and Pathfinder Playtest Thursday. And then all of that stuff will be going up on, it'll be highlighted in our Twitch archive, so you'll be able to access that forever. And then after that, it'll also be getting edited and put up on YouTube. So these will be things that you'll be able to find for a long time. And hopefully that helps us get the word out.
Definitely.
There's still a lot of things we're not addressing yet. I would love to talk more about the ACG. I think the adventure card game is really fun. I think there's room.
You had that one episode.
I had that
but
one.
we could have more, right?
One episode.
Yeah.
But there's more room. We can do more with that. And I think organized play is so huge. Organized play needs to be talked about more. My hope is that if we have a dedicated Starfinder show and a dedicated Pathfinder show, we'll have time to work in organized play for each respective IP and get that in there at first. And then after that, I would love to see its own show. I would love to see organized
dedicated
play.
org play show.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's going on with org play? Could talk about different communities or.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot more. The thing that I'm worried about and the thing I don't want to do is rush headlong into something, and then realize I don't have enough content. And I've just roped a lot of people into doing something where we're just going to twiddle our thumbs for a while, which is, don't get me wrong, a lot of fun.
I mean,
it's bad content.
I think we've been having a pretty good show, and we just talked about a small number of updates and the way that the format is going to change. So you can I think you can do a show without having loads of little details.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. So, and then again, follow me on Twitter, or don't even follow me. Just give me feedback on Twitter. It's Dan_Servo. And actually, so anyway. If you have ideas, if you have things that you're not sure about or want to know, or hey, have an idea that like, why isn't he doing this? Hit me up. Send me a message. I'll be more than happy to help. And Urgent Sandwich, you can send your resume to me on Twitter. Feel free. I would love to see that. And Seifter, you're on Twitter right now.
Yeah,
you just started.
I made an account one day before I left for Gen Con.
I didn't even get to update your name tag. Like the name tag down over there. I think I didn't. It just says your name. It doesn't have your Twitter handle on it. So, everybody, grab a quill and parchment and write this down. Mark Seifter, what is
it's
your
just at Mark Seifter? So,
everybody follow Mark Seifter. He's got a lot of stuff to say, and I think that if you've ever seen any of his handiwork on the forums, then you know that he's an amazing writer. So follow him at Mark Seifter on Twitter. So I'm sorry I don't have it in there. I didn't even think about it until afterwards.
Yeah, I thought you might have it because you followed me with official Paizo.
I know. So look, you've
right.
already got a follower. So
there we go. Well, you know what? I got almost like a significant percentage of as many followers as my entire Facebook page in like a few weeks after making the Twitter. So
here's the thing: starting your Twitter account right before Gen Con is a good move.
Well, yeah,
because there's you're going to meet a lot of folks, and it's like, oh, follow me on Twitter, and then people start to take notice. So, All right. Well, there's that. So let's
Do we
talk
have time
about
for some questions?
Yeah, because now I'm just kind of thinking we can do some Q&A if we wanted to.
Sure.
And everybody, Mark Moreland is moderating right now. That's Yoda Ate My Head, who is also, that's his Twitter handle also. So follow him on Twitter. So Mark, if there was questions in there that I missed, go ahead and start putting those up, and we'll try to get some Q&A going. Just to kind of move things along. We got about 20 minutes, so.
Yeah. That sounds good. That's a reasonable amount of questions we can take.
We should actually. I should create a list of all the what I should do, and that's actually it's good advice. Take all of the folks that work at Paizo that want to be included in an official list and list all their Twitter accounts. I think that's a good idea. I don't want to do it without getting clearance from them first, because some people have a personal account, or some people are like, oh, I'm not in the spotlight, I don't want it up there. But it's not a bad idea. I should actually pursue that and get like a document together.
My account is more or less 100% professional, as you may expect from someone who didn't have one for years and only made it a day before Gen Con.
You're always professional, buddy. Come on.
Am I? Am I though?
No. Let's see. Is there any consideration to increasing the range of untrained to legendary? The +4 range doesn't seem very legendary.
So the question is whether or not we want to change the difference between untrained and legendary from +5, not 4,
right,
to
is
a
it
different
5?
number.
Okay.
Yeah, it is 5.
Okay.
-2 for untrained, 3 for legendary is 5.
Mm-hmm.
I will just say this. A +5 swing in Pathfinder 2nd Edition is enormous.
Okay. All right. Is it significant?
Oh, no. It's
Callback. And
it may... That version, it may actually be the significant I was saying for signature skills.
Right.
It's very significant.
Right.
Like, let's say that, like, everyone knows, or okay, I shouldn't say everyone knows, but a lot of people have experienced the situation where you barely can hit a monster. You need like a 20 to hit, and you make it exactly on a 20. And if you get a +3 there, sure, that quadruples your number of times you can hit them, because you only hit them one time and now you can hit them 4 times. In weird extreme situations, the bonus is always going to be pretty good. But in Pathfinder 1st Edition and a lot of D20 systems that don't have critical successes and failures for every 10, if you're in the middle of the die, that's about the worst time to get a bonus.
Right.
Because when you're sort of, other than when you hit automatically and the bonus doesn't do anything, if you're in the middle or you were already very, very accurate, they don't really help very much. Like going from hitting on a 4 to hitting on a 2 at least gets rid of a lot of your failures, but it's not very exciting at those kind of stages. And middles happen a lot. In Pathfinder 2nd Edition, if you are needing, at a situation where you would need a 10 on the die roll to hit, and suddenly you get a +6 bonus,
right,
that doubles your expected damage if it's an attack roll.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's because a critical success is double on an attack roll. Some cases a critical success is more than twice as good as a success, and that means it would more than double your expected damage. Even a +3 is 50% more damage. So if you have a party of 4 barbarians and fighters who were at exactly that hit chance for some reason, and a bard who plays a tune that gives everyone a +3 to hit, doesn't even boost their damage even though it would, and then just sits around and doesn't even take their other actions, just like, I'm done, that is still going to do as much damage as 6 barbarians or fighters who didn't have that silly bard there. It's better than, and the bard actually has other actions, they can do things. Like, bonuses are very, very good, and a difference of 5 is pretty significant. Just, well, from what I talked about there in terms of that's for damage, but the same thing will happen almost any time that you could say that a critical success is twice as good as a success, like when you're disabling a device, and shall and forbid you're trying to disable a DC 20 lock at level 1, because that's very hard, but a critical success is 2 successes. So the idea of a critical success of being double or more as good is something you can sort of heuristically use throughout. So I guess what I'm saying is expect every bonus to be worth around twice as much as what it was worth before, because it's usually either giving you more critical successes too, or getting rid of a critical failure.
Right.
Because like before, if you needed a 16 to hit, and I give you a +1, all I've done is added 15 as a die roll that matters for you. But with this system, I've added 5 as another die roll or actually I guess 6, but it doesn't matter. You've added 2 numbers on the d20 every time you add a +1 where something is going better for you. Either a critical failure is going away or a critical success is being added.
Okay,
so,
all right. Let me ask you this. Any thoughts on switching some class feats to general feats, things like power attack and double slice?
So I think people asked Jason like this exact same thing last week, so I'm just gonna I'm gonna repeat his line on that, which is that
he would love that.
There are certainly some weapon styles that didn't really we couldn't fit everything we wanted into the playtest, such as Rogue with 2-weapon fighting. Even in some ways, Ranger's 2-weapon fighting might be better not to be double slice, but to be a different, more ranger-focused style. Because double slice sort of, if you've got an animal companion, bypasses hunt target entirely. Whereas Rangers would like something perhaps a little more like Flurry of Blows that speeds up their action economy and doesn't care about their multiple attacks, since they already improved that with hunt target.
Right.
So the idea is we need to get those other styles in there. That's just for sure. But it doesn't mean that the exact same feat, like fighters love double slice. It doubles down on everything that's good for fighters. And we gave it to Rangers, but it might not be the right one for them. And having one that speaks to your class, that's great for your class, is something we want to do, and we're going to look at adding more. There's also a case where a lot of people who are most focused on it are like, well, there's no bow path. Because in Pathfinder First Edition, there was sort of this one true bow path. It was actually a real problem. A lot of them were, I don't know if any of your rogues were archers, because I hear mostly that you stab people.
Yeah, stabby.
But if you've played with an archer, you know that there were so many feat taxes for bows that basically when you strapped down and sat in, you were on a railroad with very few small changes up until like level 11, unless you got bonus feats.
Yeah, pretty much.
And if you weren't a human, it took even longer to do that.
Right.
There was a half-elf inquisitor that I played with at one point who he started really bad because he couldn't get point-blank shot and precise shot, which were the start of the whole feat tax thing, get rid of the penalty for shooting into melee. Once he had those, and rapid shot and deadly aim and many shot, the ones everybody takes that just use up all of your choices, yeah, he was extremely deadly. We basically gave you all those benefits for free, if you think about it, mostly. Point-blank shot is a numerical advantage, so let's not talk about that for the moment. But precise shot, you don't get a penalty from firing into melee. You almost get improved precise shot for free in some ways, not quite, because your allies only give a 1 screening. Even if you count that as double in the new edition, that's still only 2.
Right.
Obviously, you don't ignore all cover, but it gives you a lot of that. Rapid shot and many shot to get more arrows. Well, you already can shoot 3 arrows to start off. Deadly aim to make it so that having higher accuracy actually mattered for you. Well, you can crit, and you've got a deadly weapon, so your bow, when it crits, is going to be really pretty spectacular with the extra d10.
Nice.
So a lot of people saw bow crits in some of their playtests as being pretty deadly. So what that means is a lot of people are used to, and don't get me wrong, I had an archer that I played for a while in Pathfinder Society. It was my first character to hit Seeker status, which is one of the highest level statuses. And I totally followed that treadmill. It's easy to follow the treadmill, but it was sort of boring, and I sometimes wanted to take something else. I was like, nah, I'll take the next archery feat. And I didn't even name clustered shot, which got added later on. So by not having all of these things and just trying to make it so that those styles are already very attractive overall, and that there are some special feats that key in with what's good about your class, I think that's going to make it stronger in terms of build variety. So, if you have a set of martial bow feats that are definitely strong, they're balanced with the other stuff, and they're especially good if you're an archer, that everyone wants to take, then all of your classes, whatever they are, will take those. And you don't get much build diversity because they've all taken those feats. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think also a lot of people are seeing different results for like bows and some of the combat styles in each of the Doomsday Dawn parts, which I love, because some people have started doing some of the later parts, and they were like, oh yeah, this wasn't a dungeon, it was an open area, and this time, and bows were very different, or 2-weapon fighting is really good against monsters with weakness. Monsters with weaknesses like to have multiple hits. monsters with resistances. You want to do one big attack.
Right.
And so we really tried to make the weapons themselves with the weapon traits and the different weapon styles be kind of different, but all really useful. And I think that with the exception of a few feats that we need to tweak, like maybe boosting power attack a little, we're on the right track. And you guys are finding where we're not on the right track.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It kind of becomes apparent.
Yeah. It's like,
nice.
yeah, we need to boost that. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Crafting is currently a catch-all skill, and combined with create magic items, with a create magic items feat, it makes a PC able to craft everything from magic sword, magic armor, both leather and mail, bows, rings, blah, blah, blah. Do you think some of those should have their specific feat, like scribe for scrolls and alchemist?
Well, this one I can answer more quickly than the other ones. My answer is no.
No. Done.
In fact, scribe for scroll even is cut in the catch-all magic items. It's just, it only exists in case you want to be able to scribe them right away, because you can't actually get magical crafter until level 4 or possibly sooner if you're a rogue.
Okay.
Oddly enough, because of the way things work. But scribe scroll is something you'd probably train back out of once you have magical crafter. Really, we didn't want there to be this giant chasm of feat texts that you piled on to make the magic items, and then in exchange you broke the game's economy for making the magic items. Instead, we wanted being a magic item crafter to be part of the story of your character, part of the identity of your character that you could pick with a very minimal effort to get into it, that makes up for the fact that you now have the advantage of being able to sort of get exactly what item you want, even if you're somewhere where you wouldn't be able to find that item.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And then let's see. So we're starting to wind down on time here. And we're running up against actually one of our really good friends, Glass Cannon, who are starting to stream right now.
Oh yeah, we better not go too much over the Glass Cannon.
We're partners. We can't do that, you know. Yeah. So let's do this. Let's first of all, I want to remind everybody that you can go on to our forums and ask these same questions there. You don't get to.
You don't have me in a hot seat.
You don't get to hear Mark, his voice and explaining everything, which is half the fun. But you still get those same answers. And the other thing now is you can actually hit him up on Twitter now too, because everybody knows your Twitter handle.
That's true.
And so we try to, and you might notice this from the way that I run the social media for Paizo. I try to stay away from any rules questions or anything like that. I generally will direct people right to the boards. I'm like, go to the forums and do it there, just because it's just not a good avenue to put those answers out. So I encourage you to go to the forums and talk to folks and and get those answers there. And again, we're going to be doing this every week. Every Friday, we're going to be talking about Pathfinder Playtest in one form or another. And so there's a lot of stuff. That we'll be able to get out as far as information goes through the course of these next few weeks. The one thing I want to say is I saw the last question I want to cover, because I think that this is actually a really important one. Somebody is asking, their group canceled last week and they're playing this weekend, and if they play, is it still too late for them to give feedback?
It's never too late.
It's never too late.
Until the end of the year.
Until the end of the year. Those surveys are going to be up till the end of the year. Now, to be the most effective use for the team, you want to get them done pretty quick. You want to get them done as quick as possible. But those are still there, and they're still going to be looked at.
I would say
for quite a while.
As quick as possible is not necessary. Take the time you need to do it well, especially as long as you're within the time frame.
Yes, in the time frame.
Because, as you may have heard, we're doing an analysis show, and probably we're going to crunch numbers the most deeply and kind of most complicatedly right before that show. And we're going to go back to them later and see what happened later on. But if you want to be analyzed the most with all sorts of like, oh my gosh, how many times did the barbarian die compared to the fighter and the paladin or something like that, some kind of conditional analysis where we have to do a lot of math, we're obviously going to do a lot of that for that show.
Right.
And so as long as you're in before that end show, which is basically during the time frame, you'll get that deep analysis, but you're still going to be in there for when we do the final checks on any of these questions. Near the end, it just might not have the big impact of being on the show.
We're going to go long. I have one more question that's actually getting a lot of juice behind it. Can we get a clarification on how to apply hardness and dents? How is it supposed to work? Is there a way to sunder worn equipped items? Hardness and dent.
So the question is, can we get a clarification on hardness and dents?
Yes.
I think that there's a good answer to that, which is, you said already. Yes.
Yes.
We can. When we have one, if we want to have one, we can put it in updates. I would say that right now, basically the way that it works is that if there is an amount of damage that is over the hardness, you take a dent. If it's twice the hardness, you take 2 dents.
Okay. All right.
But we may need to do it in a rules language way, and if we did, we would put it on the updates. In terms of sundering, well, you know what? We don't have a sunder in there right now intentionally. So tell us what you think about not having a sunder in there, because personally, I can't think of anything that has enraged players more than having their magic item destroyed, even if you kill their character.
I can think of plenty of things that have enraged players more.
More than having their items destroyed?
Oh, no, maybe not. Yeah, it's
even if you kill their character, if you destroy their +5 sword, like... And we have certain special attacks that are rare, that not like the commonality rare, but that aren't in many creatures that come up that'll damage objects. But we don't have a specific thing built into the game where if your GM is being nasty, and some GMs have been in the playtest, like using lots of combat maneuvers in an interesting way. If your GM is being nasty, it's just like, oh yeah, I just sunder all of their gear, now it's gone.
Right.
They may win the fight, but did you really win if all of your gear is sundered?
At what cost? So we're going to wrap it up on that. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Mark, thanks for sitting in. This was relatively short notice, and I really appreciate you coming in and chatting with us about the game. I am glad that you guys have joined us today. I'm a super excited person about what's coming up next week. Getting all of these different shows going is going to be amazing.
That's so
and
awesome.
A lot of fun. So we're going to see a lot more of you around this particular campfire coming up, and I'm excited about that. So on that note, for my guest today, Mark Seifter, and for Paizo, and for me, Dan Tharp, thanks so much for joining us, and have a good weekend.
Bye, everybody.